Bruno Mars is taking over Australian radio today, and for fans waiting to see the global superstar return down under, this is one of those moments you are not going to want to miss. Today, Thursday, August 27th, Bruno Mars is taking over the Smallzy Show across the KIIS network, bringing his voice, personality, stories, and music directly to Australian listeners as excitement continues to build around the Romantic Tour and its massive Australian run in 2027. So if you are a Bruno Mars fan, if you have been following the Romantic Tour, or if you are simply wondering what the superstar has in store for Australia next year, stay with us, because this radio takeover arrives at a very interesting moment in Bruno's career. And before we get into everything surrounding today's special broadcast, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, because there is a lot happening around Bruno Mars right now, and the Australian chapter of the Romantic Tour is already becoming one of the biggest music stories of the day. Bruno Mars taking over the Smallzy Show is more than just another celebrity interview. It comes as Australia prepares for the return of one of the world's most successful live performers, with the Romantic Tour officially expanding into Australia and New Zealand for 2027. And today, Australian fans get another opportunity to hear Bruno himself as he sits down with Smallzy for a candid and wide-ranging conversation recorded in New York. That detail is important. This is not simply a replay of an old Bruno Mars interview. This is a conversation arriving at the exact moment when anticipation for the Romantic Tour is accelerating across Australia. The timing could hardly be more interesting. Bruno has been traveling across the world with the Romantic Tour, performing huge stadium shows and continuing one of the most ambitious touring eras of his career. Now, Australia is officially back on the map. And with today's takeover of the Smallzy Show, the connection between Bruno and Australian fans is becoming even more direct. The KIIS network has positioned today's broadcast as an exclusive opportunity for Australian listeners to get access to one of music's biggest stars. For fans, that means the radio becomes the place to hear Bruno's voice at a moment when everyone is talking about his upcoming Australian shows. And there is another reason this moment matters. Bruno Mars has always had a unique relationship with Australian audiences. His music has remained incredibly familiar to listeners across the country. From Just the Way You Are and Grenade to Locked Out of Heaven, Treasure, Uptown Funk, 24K Magic, That's What I Like, Versace on the Floor, Leave the Door Open, Die with a Smile, and his newer material from the Romantic era. So when Bruno returns to Australian media ahead of a major tour, there is naturally going to be enormous interest in what he has to say. And today's Smallzy Show takeover gives fans exactly that opportunity. The conversation reportedly looks back at Bruno's journey, including his career, his music, his evolution as an artist, and the road that has taken him from one of the world's most recognizable performers to the stadium-level superstar he is today. But underneath all of that is one obvious question. What does Bruno Mars have planned for Australia in 2027? Because the Romantic Tour is not arriving quietly. The newly expanded Australian dates are set to take Bruno across some of the country's biggest stadiums. The Australian run begins on February 13th, 2027, at Optus Stadium in Perth. From there, Bruno heads to Melbourne for 2 nights at Marvel Stadium on February 19th and February 20th. The tour then moves to Brisbane for a huge performance at Suncorp Stadium on February 28th. And then comes Sydney. Bruno Mars will perform 2 nights at Accor Stadium on March 4th and March 5th, 2027. That means 6 major Australian stadium shows across 4 cities: Perth, Melbourne, Brisbane, Sydney. And the scale of the announcement immediately tells us something about the demand surrounding Bruno Mars. This is not a small comeback. This is a full-scale stadium return. The Romantic Tour is already one of the biggest touring stories in the world, and the Australian expansion follows extraordinary demand for Bruno's live performances. According to venue and ticketing information, the tour has expanded to more than 115 stadium shows globally, spanning multiple continents and markets. That expansion is significant because Bruno's current touring era has already demonstrated just how powerful his audience remains. The Romantic Tour set a Ticketmaster record with 2.1 million tickets sold in a single day, while the tour also delivered what was described as the largest single-day ticket sales result in Live Nation history across North America, Europe, and the United Kingdom. Now Australia is entering that story. And that is why today's radio takeover matters. It is happening while the excitement is building. It is happening while fans are preparing for ticket sales. And it is happening while Bruno is actively promoting a tour that is quickly becoming one of the defining live music events of this period. But there is another detail Australian fans should know. Bruno will not be traveling alone. Tyla is scheduled to join Bruno Mars as a special guest across the Australian and New Zealand dates. The South African superstar has become one of the biggest names in global pop and R&B, with hits including Water, Push to Start, and Chanel. And alongside Tyla, another familiar name will be part of the experience. Anderson Paak will return as DJ P.We. For Bruno Mars fans, that name immediately adds another layer of excitement. Bruno and Anderson Paak are, of course, the creative force behind Silk Sonic, the duo responsible for the Grammy-winning retro soul phenomenon that gave audiences songs such as Leave the Door Open. The Australian tour lineup therefore brings together Bruno Mars, Tyla, and Anderson Paak in the DJ P.We role, with Silk Sonic also set to feature as part of the special performance experience. That combination alone makes the 2027 Australian shows extremely significant. But before the stadium lights come on, before thousands of fans fill the venues, and before the first notes of the romantic tour echo across Australia, Bruno is making his presence felt through radio. And that brings us back to the Smallzy Show. Today, the spotlight is on Bruno Mars. The KIIS network is giving Australian listeners a special opportunity to hear the superstar during the broadcast, with Bruno taking over the Smallzy Show for a special promotional moment connected to his upcoming Australian tour. For listeners, the appeal is simple. You do not need to be inside a stadium. You do not need to wait until February 2027. You can hear Bruno today. The broadcast is available through the KIIS network, including KIIS 106.5 in Sydney, while listeners can also access the station through its digital platforms and the iHeartRadio app. And that is where this story becomes even more interesting. Radio has always played an important role in Bruno Mars's connection with audiences. His songs have become staples of pop radio around the world, and hearing Bruno speak directly to listeners creates a completely different experience from simply streaming his music. You get the artist behind the hits. You hear the personality behind the performances. And sometimes those interviews can reveal details that fans never hear during a concert. That is exactly why today's broadcast is generating attention. What will Bruno say? Will he talk about his Australian return? Will he discuss the enormous stadium shows? Will he reflect on his career? Will he reveal anything about the production of the romantic tour? Will he talk about performing in Australia again? Or could the conversation offer fans a glimpse into the mindset behind this massive new chapter? Those questions are part of the excitement. And there is one thing we should be careful about. At this point, fans should not assume that every rumor circulating online is something Bruno has confirmed. The safest place to focus is on what has actually been announced. Bruno Mars is coming to Australia in 2027. The romantic tour is expanding into major Australian stadiums. Tyla will join him. Anderson Paak will appear as DJ P.We. And Bruno is using today's Smallzy Show appearance to connect with Australian audiences ahead of the tour. Those are the facts. Everything else should be treated as speculation until Bruno or the official tour team confirms it. That distinction matters because Bruno Mars fans are some of the most active music fans online. The moment Bruno says something interesting in an interview, clips can spread across TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, X, Facebook, and fan communities within minutes. One sentence can become a headline. One joke can become a viral moment. One answer about the tour can trigger thousands of fan reactions. And today's Smallzy Show takeover has exactly that potential. Because Bruno is not just promoting a concert. He is introducing Australian fans to the next stage of the romantic tour. Think about the journey. Bruno's career has moved through multiple musical eras. He began by establishing himself as a singer-songwriter with a remarkable ability to blend pop, R&B, soul, funk, reggae, and classic influences. Then came global hits that transformed him into a household name. Just the Way You Are became a defining early moment. Grenade demonstrated the emotional side of his songwriting. Locked Out of Heaven brought rock-inspired energy into his pop sound. Treasure showcased his love of retro funk and disco. Uptown Funk became a global cultural phenomenon. 24K Magic pushed the retro futuristic aesthetic even further. Then Silk Sonic introduced a new chapter with Anderson Paak. And now the romantic era is giving Bruno another opportunity to combine everything audiences love about him. The voice, the musicianship, the choreography, the fashion, the humor, the live band, the showmanship, and above all, the ability to make a giant stadium feel like an intimate nightclub. That is the real Bruno Mars concert experience. And it is why today's radio appearance is more important than it might initially seem. It is a bridge between the artist and the audience. A bridge between New York and Australia. A bridge between today's excitement and next year's stadium shows. And as the clock moves toward the broadcast, fans have another reason to pay attention. The Smallzy Show has become known for bringing major international stars into conversations with Australian audiences. So when Bruno Mars takes over the show, expectations are naturally high. Smallzy is not simply talking to a chart artist. He is speaking with one of the most recognizable performers in modern pop music. And Bruno is arriving with a huge story to tell. The romantic tour, the new music, the global stadium run, the Australian comeback, the enormous ticket demand, and the anticipation surrounding 2027. This is where the story reaches its turning point, because Australian fans are no longer asking whether Bruno Mars is coming. That question has been answered. He is coming. The question now is how big this Australian chapter will become. 6 stadium shows have already been announced across Perth, Melbourne, Brisbane, and Sydney, and the ticketing timeline is approaching quickly. The artist pre-sale is scheduled for September 2nd, with fans required to register in advance. General ticket sales are scheduled for September 4th, with local times varying by city and venue. That means today's radio takeover arrives at exactly the right moment for fans. It is the kind of appearance that can turn casual listeners into ticket buyers. Someone might hear Bruno talking about the tour and suddenly realize, wait, Bruno Mars is coming to my city. Someone in Melbourne might start thinking about Marvel Stadium. Someone in Sydney might already be planning for Accor Stadium. A fan in Perth may be preparing for opening night at Optus Stadium. And Brisbane fans are now looking towards Suncorp Stadium. This is how anticipation grows. First comes the announcement, then comes the interview, then the ticket countdown, then the waiting, and eventually the stadium lights go down. The crowd gets louder, the opening visuals appear, and Bruno Mars walks onto the stage. That moment is still months away, but today's broadcast is part of the build-up. It is the soundtrack to the countdown, and for longtime Bruno Mars fans, there is something especially exciting about hearing him speak about Australia again. Because Australia is not just another destination on a tour map. It is a market where Bruno's music has had an enormous cultural presence for years. His songs have been part of weddings, parties, radio playlists, celebrations, heartbreaks, dance floors, and countless personal memories. So when he returns, fans are not simply buying a concert ticket. They are buying another memory. And the romantic tour is designed to create those moments on a massive scale. This is Bruno Mars doing what Bruno Mars does best. Taking classic musical influences, mixing them with modern production, adding world-class musicianship, bringing the energy of funk, soul, pop, R&B, and rock into one massive live experience, and then putting it in front of tens of thousands of people. That is why the 2027 Australian tour is already generating so much conversation. And today, the Smallzy Show gives fans a closer look at the person behind that enormous production. There is still plenty we do not know about the Australian shows. Set lists can evolve. Visuals can change. Guest appearances can create surprises. And Bruno has a long history of making his live performances feel spontaneous even when they are built around an extremely polished production. that uncertainty is part of the fun. Fans know the major pieces, but they do not know every moment. And that is exactly what keeps the anticipation alive. So as Bruno Mars takes over the KIIS network today, Australian fans have a chance to pause the countdown and hear from the man himself. The Smallzy Show takeover is a reminder that the romantic tour is no longer simply a global tour happening somewhere far away. Australia is officially part of the story. Perth is on the calendar. Melbourne is on the calendar. Brisbane is on the calendar. Sydney is on the calendar. Tyla is joining the Australian dates. Anderson Paak is returning as DJ P.We. And Bruno Mars is speaking directly to Australian audiences ahead of the journey. That is the bigger picture. The radio appearance is one moment. The Australian tour is another. But together, they represent the beginning of a much bigger countdown. And if today's conversation gives fans even one unexpected detail, one funny Bruno Mars moment, one memorable story, or one hint about what audiences can expect in 2027, the internet will almost certainly take notice. So keep your eyes and ears open, because Bruno Mars is officially turning the spotlight toward Australia. The Smallzy Show is where the conversation begins. The romantic tour is where the story continues. And the stadiums are where the real spectacle will eventually unfold. For now, Australian fans can listen to the Smallzy Show through the KIIS network and its digital listening platforms, including the iHeartRadio app, and experience the special Bruno Mars takeover as the countdown to 2027 begins. And perhaps the most exciting part is that this is only the beginning. Bruno Mars has already conquered stages across North America, Europe, and the United Kingdom. He is continuing the global journey. He is expanding the tour. He is preparing for more stadiums. And now Australia is waiting. The next chapter is coming. And when Bruno Mars finally steps onto an Australian stadium stage in February 2027, the wait that began with announcements, interviews, ticket sales, fan theories, and radio appearances will finally become real. Until then, every Bruno Mars interview matters. Every tour update matters. Every new detail matters. And today's Smallzy Show takeover is another major piece of the countdown. So if you are a Bruno Mars fan, make sure you stay connected because the romantic tour is still unfolding. Australia is officially in the picture, and this global superstar is showing once again why his name continues to dominate conversations in music, live entertainment, pop culture, and stadium touring. Bruno Mars is coming back to Australia. The countdown has officially begun. And just when fans thought they already knew everything about Bruno Mars and the romantic tour, today's special radio appearance adds another layer to the story. For Australian Bruno Mars fans, this is not simply about hearing a familiar voice on the radio. It is about seeing the biggest pieces of the 2027 Australian tour slowly come together. Bruno has reached a point in his career where even a short interview can become a major event for fans around the world. A comment about a song can trend. A story about touring can generate headlines. A simple joke can become a viral clip. And when the subject is Australia, the interest becomes even stronger because fans are already counting down to the stadium shows. The Smallzy Show appearance, therefore, arrives at a perfect time. Australian listeners are beginning to shift from excitement to preparation. The tour has been announced. The cities are known. The stadiums are known. The special guests have been announced. And now fans are entering the crucial stage where they start thinking about tickets, travel, accommodation, merchandise, outfits, and the songs they hope to hear live. That is what makes this particular Bruno Mars radio takeover so important. It gives fans a moment to hear Bruno before the stadium experience arrives. And there is something uniquely powerful about that. A stadium performance can involve tens of thousands of people, enormous screens, lights, dancers, musicians, pyrotechnics, and production effects. But a radio interview strips everything back. There is just the voice, the personality, the stories, the laughter, the conversation. And that can sometimes make an international superstar feel surprisingly close. For Bruno Mars, that connection has always been an important part of his appeal. He can perform in front of a massive stadium one night and still make the audience feel as though he is singing directly to them. That ability has helped turn Bruno into one of the most recognizable live entertainers of his generation. And the romantic tour is taking that philosophy to another level. The Australian dates are expected to become major cultural moments, particularly in Sydney and Melbourne, where Bruno will perform multiple nights. Sydney will receive 2 consecutive shows at Accor Stadium. Melbourne will also receive 2 nights at Marvel Stadium. Meanwhile, Perth gets the honor of opening the Australian run at Optus Stadium, while Brisbane will host the tour at Suncorp Stadium. Each city brings a different audience. Each stadium has its own atmosphere, and each night could potentially create its own unforgettable Bruno Mars moment. That is another reason fans are watching every interview so closely. Bruno is known for his spontaneity. His concerts can contain planned moments, but there is always room for something unexpected. A different interaction with the audience, a spontaneous dance, a joke, a vocal moment, a change in performance energy, or even an unexpected guest appearance. Fans understand that they cannot predict everything, and that uncertainty is part of the excitement. But today's radio appearance also reminds audiences that Bruno Mars is not simply preparing for another concert. He is continuing an enormous global touring campaign. The romantic tour has already traveled through multiple markets and created huge demand. The production has become one of the defining live music spectacles of Bruno's career. And now the Australian and New Zealand chapter is becoming one of the most anticipated portions of the tour. There is also an important musical connection with the special guests. Tyla represents a newer generation of global pop and R&B. Her international breakthrough has transformed her into one of the most recognizable young African artists on the global stage. And then there is Anderson Paak. For Bruno fans, Anderson is much more than a special guest. He is Bruno's partner in Silk Sonic. Together, Bruno Mars and Anderson Paak created a sound that deliberately looked backward while feeling completely modern. Their chemistry became one of the defining collaborations of the 2020s. So having Anderson return as DJ P. We adds another familiar dimension to the Australian experience. And for fans who have followed Bruno's career for years, the combination is incredibly appealing. You have Bruno's pop and R&B catalog. You have the Silk Sonic connection. You have Tyla's contemporary global sound. And you have the enormous production of the romantic tour. That combination could make the Australian shows particularly memorable. But before any of that happens, fans are getting today's radio moment. And this is where the countdown becomes real. September is approaching. Ticket registration is becoming a priority. Pre-sale dates are approaching. General sales are approaching. And fans know that highly anticipated stadium shows can move extremely quickly. That is why an appearance like the Smallzy Show is arriving at precisely the right moment. It puts Bruno Mars directly in front of the Australian audience just as people are preparing to secure their place inside those stadiums. And there is another fascinating element here. Bruno does not need to convince people that he is a major live performer. His reputation already speaks for itself. The question is what he will bring to Australia this time. Will the romantic tour feel different from his previous Australian performances? Will the new music change the atmosphere? Will the production be larger? Will there be new visual moments? Will Australian fans hear a different selection of songs? Will there be special surprises? Those are the questions that will continue to dominate fan conversations. And until the shows actually happen, some of those answers will remain unknown. That is why fans should separate official information from online speculation. The confirmed details are already exciting enough. Bruno Mars is returning to Australia. The tour includes 6 announced stadium performances. Tyla is joining him. Anderson Paak is part of the experience as DJ P. And Bruno is actively promoting the Australian chapter through major media appearances, including today's special takeover of the Smallzy Show. Everything beyond those confirmed details should be treated carefully, because Bruno Mars fans know how quickly a rumor can become a headline. A fan account posts a theory. Another account reposts it. A short clip gets taken out of context. Suddenly, thousands of people believe a surprise guest or new song has been officially confirmed. But the reality is often much simpler. Sometimes the biggest story is simply Bruno talking about his own journey. And that journey is already extraordinary. From his early career as a songwriter and performer to his rise as a global superstar, Bruno Mars has built a catalog that crosses generations. His music can appeal to longtime fans of classic soul and funk while also connecting with younger audiences discovering his music through streaming platforms and social media. That crossover appeal is one of the reasons his concerts can attract such a broad audience. Parents can know the songs. Young fans can know the songs. Casual listeners can know the songs. And hardcore Bruno Mars fans can sing virtually every word. That creates an unusual concert atmosphere. When the opening notes of a massive Bruno Mars hit begin playing inside a stadium, thousands of